Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the Day One Podcast. I'm Brett Nord.
I'm Adam Daly.
Yes, you are.
We're excited to be back for another episode. We had a great time talking with Haas last time about the Instagram importer.
Yes.
And this week we have another guest.
We do. I would like to introduce Jeff Razor. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, guys.
How are
Good
you?
to be with you.
Great to have you with us. I talked to Jeff a couple months ago about his use of Day One, as well as a book he has authored. And it's an awesome book. It just ties right into the stuff we're talking about, journaling and finding. Actually, it's called Where Breakthrough Happens. So we're going to hear more about Jeff with his book in a minute.
Awesome.
How about a roadmap? What's new with Day One?
We've got a few things done already. 3.1 for Mac has hit the App Store, and it solves a couple of problems that some of our users were encountering, including not being able to edit the date by clicking the More icon at the top right. Mm-hmm. And so that's fixed, and also dragging and dropping photos and stuff into Day One on Mac was producing this weird error. It had a message saying waiting to download. That is now solved as well. And the only funny thing is there is a crash that is affecting some people on 3.1. That will be fixed shortly. They're working on getting a build up to the App Store now.
Okay.
I don't know if people are familiar with this, but Apple basically is just a marketplace for software where we can sell our stuff, and there's different ways to do that: free apps, or paid apps, or the subscription apps like we do. But basically, we pay Apple a cut to host our stuff on their platform, right? Kind of like Amazon or eBay, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we submit an app to be placed on the App Store, it goes through an approval process, and they'll look at our code and make sure it looks good and make sure that we're not being deceptive or anything like that, and they go through this approval process, and once that's done, then we can release it for the general public to download. So that process can take time. Obviously, we want to make sure that good builds go out each time. We do the best we can with QA testing. We have some volunteer external testers. We have internal testers and stuff like that. Then it goes through that approval process, and sometimes things slip through, and so that fix for that crash on 3.1 will be fixed in our next update, 3.1.1. So that's what's coming out from Mac, and then just stuff on Mac, getting it ready for the parity that iOS has as far as like audio recording. Those are coming too, just a little further down the line for those updates.
Nice.
And then on iOS, still testing 3.7, which has the new Instagram feature. It's great to have that out in the world because we're relying on another company's API to pull in all of this information. Near the end of this week, we located an issue where, for not any reason of our own, but because of the API, the authorization token will sometimes expire. And so we needed to create an interface or a way for people to reconnect simply inside the app. Also let them know that it has been disconnected, because that just it can happen.
Yes.
And so I was talking to Josh a little bit about it yesterday, so that'll be included before it goes out to the general public.
Nice.
Yeah. And then following that, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Following that, obviously video is close. A lot of it is done. In fact, a lot of that code is being used for the Instagram importer. We talked a little bit about that last time. So it's getting close. And also writing prompts and templates. Those are also near. Wow, and I'm really excited about that. It'll be a real easy way to set those up, tap on it to get loaded into a journal entry, and get started with any kind of prompts that you have, anything you want. I've seen people have like some sort of rating system with emoji faces to rate their day, or rate their mood or whatever. So there's a lot of great ideas you can do with these journal prompts, and I'm sure we'll dedicate an entire episode to talking about that, how it works and stuff like that. So I'm excited about those updates.
Question, going back to Instagram. So we have rolled out, though, right? Not publicly to not 100%, but isn't it staged? Isn't it going out to help with some of the load?
Not yet. It has gone out. We invited about 400 additional beta testers through like Twitter and I think it went to Facebook, but people could go on and sign up for the beta to try this out. That way we could kind of see what more traffic looks like through this API. So it is a bigger field, but it's not to the general public just yet because of this issue that we ran into near the end of the week, the authorization thing. So we wanted to make sure that was in before it goes to the public.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is some good stuff. I think it's the beginning to even greater things about importing stuff from other sources. because ultimately what we want to be is, a repository of your memories.
Yes.
And these
still
are great
have
ways
the
to do it.
option not to use any of those social media options.
Absolutely.
If you keep it private and don't pull in feeds from anywhere. That's fine too.
Absolutely. Those are the major ones that are coming down the pipeline. Android. I should mention Android real quick.
Yes.
Android is getting, how do you say? I want to say rebuilt, basically.
Yeah.
But it's going to go through some major changes. We're actively working on that right now. I know we didn't have a better idea when we talked about it a couple of times ago.
Right. We do
but now one of our engineers is dedicated to this project. They'll be building a better Android experience for that platform. So I don't have any ETA. I never do. Unless I know exactly when it's coming out or something's already been submitted to the App Store or the Google Play Store. I don't have an ETA. That's a little outside of my purview.
You could do an ET, just to estimate a time.
I have.
Can't say when it's arrival.
Hopefully, I don't know about Android. Hopefully 3.7 on iOS will be out next week, and Mac 3.1.1 similarly.
Next week, meaning this week, if you're listening on Monday.
Exactly.
Plus, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, we record this on Friday and have a weekend to edit and whatnot, and then we release on Monday. So hopefully this week.
Yes.
I'll say that.
Yes, great.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, real quick, are you an Instagram user? And have you got on the beta? Are you using the importer?
I am an Instagram user. I enjoy it. I've increased that probably over the last 3 to 6 months, and I'm not on the beta test, but I am excited about what I'm hearing about day one. To import that stuff. It would. I love what you said, Adam, about having a repository of our life. And day one is that for things on my heart from a journaling perspective, but Instagram would be huge. That'd be great.
Yeah.
We're really excited about it.
And having separate feeds so you don't bring the two together is nice. You can flip back and forth.
Yep.
I interviewed somebody last week that said, it's my supposed life is my Instagram, and then my real life is what I write in day one.
Hey, no, it's true. And I've been caught up in that before as well, where we try to present our best selves for the outward-facing kind of stuff. And that's not necessarily inherently bad, but it can skew the view a little bit, right? But yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is a great way to combine your introspective self and your social, your extrovert, your social self.
Yeah, that's right. Good. Well, Jeff, again, thanks for joining us. I loved the discussion you and I had a few months ago, and I thought it'd be perfect. Again, I could play just a few highlights, or it'd be better. Is that a word? More better? It'd be better if I could more have you on where we could spend a little more time and get more depth in your process. And so let's do that. First, let's talk about how you found day one, and then we'll talk about your book a little bit later.
Yeah, great question. I don't know exactly how I found it. It must have been a number of years ago. It must have been searching on the App Store. I've been a decent journaler for maybe the last 15 years, off and on. I was sporadic. I used a handwritten journal. Folks said that's best to let your mind process it through the pen, but my handwriting's terrible. And while it was effective, and I have a couple cool books where I can go back years ago and look at my journals. I was shifting to more of a digital world. And sometimes that loses that touch, but I didn't want to lose that touch. And so I found day one, and I've found that flowing, things on your heart, on your mind, everything that's stirring, there's still that time for it to flow from your mind through your fingers to the keyboard. And for me, it's equally as effective, if not more so, to just let it flow through the fingers into day one. So I was looking for a place to do that. Obviously, generic applications like Microsoft Word, and I use that for lots of things, but it's not going to work for a repository. And I came across day one, and I think what caught my eye from the beginning was the ease of use and the beauty of it. I'm an image and presentation person.
Yes. And
the fact that I could capture my thoughts in something that looked that clean and accessible was huge, and I was hooked from day one. I did not mean that pun, but I was hooked on day one from day one, and have used it ever since.
That's the origin of the name, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Starting
You'll like it from day one.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned on the first podcast when I was introducing myself, I have a lot of day one entries where I do one day, I'm going to commit my life to this.
Oh yeah, the first entry, and then you start over.
Start over. A couple weeks later, it's like, oh shoot, here we go again.
But how many times have I started to read Les Mis and never have finished it? It's right there. No, I'm telling you.
yeah, totally. Good stuff.
15 years, though, that's a long time. Was that pretty consistent? How was your consistency throughout all of that?
Yeah, it is sporadic. I'd go 2 or 3 months and then I'd not do it for, 2 or 3 months. It was, when I picked it up, I was doing a lot of travel for work. And so an airplane ride was a perfect place to just pull out my handwritten journal and journal. But again, I was shifting, and not only was it easy to capture in day one at my desk, but I love the fact that I can sync it with my phone. I can be out on a walk, and as I feel inspired by something, I just hit that button on my phone and start typing, and it's pretty instantaneous to sync. Sometimes I'll be at my desk typing, and I'll sit down to go reflect, and instead of standing back up, I'll just grab my phone and start typing there. 3 steps later, I'm at my desk and it's updated, and so I'll use both at the same time, which is a little strange, but I just love the functionality. I love the ease of use, and one of as obvious with any digital feature. I can search it. I have to flip through books and books of my handwritten journals if I want to look for something and don't remember when it was. But it's searchable across all the journals that I have, and I'm a novice user, but the features I tap into are supremely useful. And as I've gotten to know more about the team and been now invited into the Facebook group, I can't wait to become more of a power user. It's a powerful tool.
Awesome.
Great. And I've kind of redefined the power user, because I think when I started, I thought of, they're using shortcuts and you're using Markdown. I think if you use it consistently, you're a power user.
Yeah,
even
definitely.
if it's the quote unquote basic features, you're a power user.
Yeah.
You're using the app fully.
Definitely. I would almost quantify it as a daily active user. That to me just says that they found use for it, and they're making use of it on a regular basis. How many apps do we really have on our devices that I rarely use? Right? Any parking app that I have to scan to park my car downtown, or any stuff like that. Yeah. Well, yeah, or if I'm traveling, same kind of thing. Like there's different apps that I can use for different things. But I would say even our daily active users could be considered as a power user. So, and that's just a testament to the user's grit, and hopefully to a simple, inviting UI.
Right. Yes. Yeah, there are plenty of apps that I think I'm a power user on, but I realize it's because I'm checking out the new feature. I'm not using it really. I'm just involved in the process of figuring out how to use it. But as opposed to one that, like day one, you open it up, you just start using it right away. It's easy to get into it. So awesome. Thanks, Jeff. And while you're talking about your journals, why don't you tell us a little bit more about those? What different kind of journals do you have?
Yeah, great question. I think my primary journal is just my daily reflection. And so I have like I said, I'm imagery. So I've got a little picture I use. It's called Rooted. It allows me to just remain rooted. And so I drop that picture in the top, and I use the same sort of 4 questions. And for probably 2 or 3 years, legitimately, I use the same 4 questions, and I just answer them. And you were talking about the prompts that are coming up. I think that's going to be significant. But I would just copy paste from a blank journal, and the 4 questions, sometimes I could answer them in 5 minutes, and it was just what was there. And other times it might take me down a trail of thought that would last an hour that I didn't know was in there. But all of it, rich experience. So I appreciate you saying what you did, Brett, about the power user. It's from a technology standpoint, not a power user, but from a daily use, I power use it, and it powers my day. I can feel when I miss a day of not reflecting, and so I'm in day one. I've been in day one daily now, 1.5 years. I've not missed a day in 18 months. So the 4 questions I use on my primary journal that I was using, I've changed it a bit. But if for listeners who want to get started on something like that, it's 4 simple questions. How am I feeling? And that just allows me to get those thoughts down. And sometimes things come out that I don't know were there, and other times I know they're there, and it's a safe place to put it down. The next question is, what am I thankful for? I've found gratitude is a foundational place to start when I start my day. And then for me, I'm a person of faith, and so my walk with God is highly important. So I ask myself this question: what do I sense God is saying to me today? And that forces me to sort of get outside myself, which is beyond how I feel and beyond my gratitude. But what am I sensing that I need to be either encouraged in or challenged in or grow in? And then my next question really holds me accountable to what I'm hearing from God and listening is, what am I going to do about it? And so I kind of challenge myself. If I'm hearing something, what am I going to do about it?
I love that.
And that leads me to action. So it's a place where I can reflect and be sort of that creative side of me, but it's also a place where I can prompt myself to action. So those 4 questions have been significant. Now I've tweaked it in the last few months. I powered it up a little bit more, but it's the same basic framework, and I found that really powerful. And I do have some other journals I could mention. I think that's what you were asking, but that's my primary.
Yeah, before you move on, because I do want to hear about your other ones. I'm just intrigued with those questions. So the 4th one would elicit some action. So you transfer from there to a to-do list or some kind of a priority project manager or something to act on?
That's a great question. I use that question, what am I going to do about it, more as a posture mindset question.
Okay.
If it's a challenge, if I feel like I'm really being challenged by God, it's okay. I'm gonna surrender and let go of that thing I'm hanging on to. If it's hey, you need to take some risk, there's a step of faith in front of you, then I'll journal some sort of posture. I got to take some risks these next few days and really go for it. So it's more of a posturing thing than a to-do.
Got it.
But that postures me for my day. I use a few other apps to keep track of to-dos and things like that. I'm not as good at that as I am at the reflection.
Yeah, me too.
But it's a real posture mindset kind of experience for me.
Nice. Then Jeff, how do you reflect back? So at the end of the week, do you go back to those entries during the week? Do you do a monthly review? How do you go back to make sure you're following up on those thoughts?
Yeah, great question. I don't reflect back on those specifically unless I remember, I remember a few weeks ago I was sensing this. I'll go reread it.
Got it.
I probably should, because there's rich material in there, but it's just that daily discipline of getting things off your heart and receiving things back into your heart. I do have a reflection process, which is another journal I use. I call it my weekly summit. And I have like 6 questions I use with that. And I try and do that weekly to reflect on the successes of the week, how it felt to be successful on those things, some areas I missed that I need to improve on, and a little action plan, how I'm going to improve on that the following week. So awesome. For those folks that are getting things done users, I'm aware of it. I know a weekly review is a big part of that. I was doing my weekly review before I knew about that. But I love that I have another journal, another color, and I do the same thing. I put a picture in there. It's my weekly summit. I've got my 6 questions. And again, those 6 questions, just simply answering them, move me to discovery and move me to action on a week-to-week basis.
I have 2 questions, and I'm writing them down so I don't forget them like I forget all the questions that pop into my head all the time. I wrote them down this time.
Good for you.
First question, how did you come up with the questions? You mentioned you tweaked them, but like I imagine in the beginning, there must have been some moment where you're like, you know what, I'd like to have some sort of continual basis for these journal entries. So how did you come up with these? Are these something you looked up maybe on the internet for journal prompts, or just kind of what you wanted to express yourself, or how did that come about?
I think, Adam, a great question. I think it's a combination of all of those. The 4 questions I mentioned that I use daily, I think I just knew there's a place I need to get my feelings down, and you just hear so often the power of gratitude. That's certainly a part of my faith is experiencing life through gratitude, and then certainly my faith has that God component to it. So those were natural. Although I was sharing these with a friend a month or so ago, and there's in the Christian tradition, there's a spiritual father, Ignatius, I believe it is, that has the prayer of examine. And my friend was saying, you have exactly the prayer of examine. So maybe I tapped into something that's been, in the universe, if you will, for a while. But so those just came natural for me, and I've used those. I tweaked them just to deepen them. Sure. My weekly review, it was just what you said. There was a few I knew I wanted to ask myself. I did, you can just do a Google search and find great questions to ask yourself in a weekly review. But a couple of them specifically, my son played on this travel baseball team a number of years ago. We had this amazing baseball coach. We joked with him. You remember the movie Karate Kid from back in the day, and Mr. Miyagi? Oh, yes. He was Mr. Miyagi of baseball. And so he would ask these boys these life-challenging questions about their at-bat. Where was your success in the at-bat? What can you learn from that at-bat? What can you learn from the inning? And I got to just help out as a dad and be around him a bunch. And there are a few times where I thought, man, that's one of the best questions I've ever heard asked. I need to add that into my process. And a couple of those in my weekly review literally come from him.
Wow.
And what he was sharing with these 12-year-old boys. So I think the power for the user is find what works for you, test it for a while. Don't give up too quick.
Yeah.
You don't know the power of the repetitive process, but as you observe, look to improve it. And that's what I've done over the years.
Now, just to insert here, I think that's kind of a commonality between users that use prompts or whatever to get them started, is they've found well, I'm trying to think. Like for me, I have done that in the past, and I think I've just used other people's questions, but I didn't own it yet. And I think maybe I should have stuck with it longer, done what you did, and tweak it, make it my own. And then I've got a little bit more ownership, a little more accountability to those questions each day. That way I can stay a little more consistent. And I would just like to invite anybody. You can do a Google search for journal prompts or recurring journal prompts, and find a number of them that'll be out there. Find something that stick out to you, and then as you respond to them and as your journal habits change, make those adjustments necessary to make sure that that's something that you want to keep responding to, that you find is useful, maybe for yourself in an introspective way, but also maybe for a posterity reason, if you want to pass along those thoughts and how you've grown and how you've developed and how you lived your life. Like, those are all good things. Find out what works for you, and I think journal prompts is a great way to start. Especially if you're like me and you sit down in front of a blank screen. I tried out a different writing app this week, trying to reproduce a problem, for a user. I won't mention the name, but I sat down there in front of this blank canvas and I just thought, I don't know what to write. Sure. I think I wrote a title and maybe a tag just to see how it worked.
Yeah.
But I need that kind of help, and I think these were some great suggestions. So, thank you.
Jeff, do I have a memory that maybe it was Michael Hyatt? Because I know you and I talked about Michael Hyatt's posts over the years of using Day One and some of his journal entries and prompts.
Yeah, remind me. I didn't quite catch your question in that. Sorry.
Sure. Just he's been really a great influencer for a lot of users of Day One on how he uses prompts and questions. And I know he comes from a faith-based background as well. So I know there's multiple posts, just like Adam was saying to Google. If you Google Michael Hyatt and some of his Day One or journal posts, you'll see some of his questions that he asks.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you, Brett. He is got quite the influence, and he's lived it. He's not sharing anything he hasn't lived in test, and he's been an inspiration to me. His story, and it wasn't until I talked with you a few months ago that I knew he was using Day One. But he's pretty talented in that area, no doubt.
Yes, he is. So have you gone through all the journals? We heard about a couple.
Yeah, the others are less frequent. Those
Sure.
two are the biggest.
Okay.
I keep some others, just things I catch at church. I'll listen, to the message, and whether that's during the message or during worship. And, I think people think I'm texting during service, but I'm capturing things in my Day One journal. Just because I don't want to miss them. It's
Nice.
so easy to be at an event or a speaker event or church or something like that.
Sure.
And you hear this nugget, and you're going to remember it tomorrow morning. You say to yourself you are,
Right.
and then you can't remember it when you get in the car.
Yep.
And so that's to the use of Day One. I pull it out all the time.
Yeah. Could be.
And it's a matter of pressing a button, hitting the plus sign, or however the little pen sign, and I'm off and running. And I know it's there. And I'll be in a meeting, and someone will say something profound, and I just want to get it down, and then I can comment back to them later and remind them of something they said. So yeah, it's powerful. So a few other journals, not as well used. I love to keep one of kids' stories and quotes. I did not keep that active. I need to get a better discipline of when I hear them say something funny. I hit that button, but I've not got that discipline down. I'll get there.
Sure.
I had one last question, because it seems like you journal pretty frequent. Well, I won't say frequently, but at least consistently. How do you find the time? I mean, work, family, kids, faith, hobbies, and then journaling on top of that. Do you have a routine that you kind of stick to where you've got some time set aside? Is that beneficial, or are you more of this is a really compound question, or are you more of a spontaneous journaler where it's just like, oh, right now I want to document this, so I'll get that down right now?
Yeah, great question. I used to think, and I am a free flowing kind of guy. I don't love the rigidity, but I've found that there's power in rhythm, and that's we'll talk about that maybe a little bit about the book. And so, really, when I mentioned being 18 months every day in day one, I know that because there was a day I just said, I'm going to do this every day for 100 days and see how it changes me. And it was profound. And after that 100 days, specifically with day one, I kept going. And I've been doing that 18 months. So how do I find time? That's where I think those 4 questions are helpful. And I try and do it in the morning because it's a posturing thing. And I've found when I get that stuff off my heart, when I sense like I've heard something from God, then everything else in the day, it doesn't mean the day goes great all the time. It doesn't mean I don't face challenges, but I've kind of set my chin, if you will, to move ahead and have confidence in the day. When I don't do that, I could theoretically be very productive, but often I find I'm not. So that those 4 questions, if I just do it in 5 minutes, I know I've done it. I've set some sort of marker in my day that I can move from, and that usually makes my day a whole lot better. You can ask my wife. If I haven't journaled and kind of done those early morning routines, she can feel it, and we all feel it. And so it's become a genuine discipline out of the joy of it and the power of it, not the rigidity of it.
Love that.
And so that's where those 4 questions are helpful because I can do them in 5 minutes if I just got to do it. The other problem is, or not problem, but opportunity maybe, if I miss it in the morning, it's 4 questions. It's 11:30 at night. I'm getting in bed. I can just pull it up and say, hey, just the fact that I'm going to take 3 to 5 minutes to get these down, I'm going to feel better when I go to sleep that I did it, and I'm good. So like I said, I don't love rigidity, but I found that rhythm has been transformative.
Awesome. That's it for me.
Yeah,
Those
I
are
love that.
great answers. Thank you so much for sharing. I hope that's helpful. I hope that's helpful for the listeners out there as well in establishing their routines and finding out what works for them.
Yeah, I love that, the rhythm. I like that over rigidity because I feel the same way, Jeff. I struggle with that as well. So thank you. Awesome. Last question about your use of day one, and then we'll move on to your book, and that is your favorite feature.
Oh, favorite feature. That's a great question. Since I'm not as technical as some of the other power users, I would say there's probably ones I've yet to discover. But there's a couple favorites for me right now that are easier for me. What you can drag and drop in, and that's probably I've used that in 3 different ways. Like I said, in my daily journaling and my weekly journaling, I have a picture. It's kind of like the header of my journal entry, and that picture, I'm just image oriented, and so when I look at my day one journal, I can see that picture over and over again. So that's awesome. I love to drag in pictures when, say, I was out on a run and felt like something was inspiring, and I took some pictures out on a run. Then I can be reminded of what I was seeing when I was thinking those things. So that drag and drop feature is nice. Sometimes I'm a chart guy. I love tables and charts, and I'll build them in Excel or Word or move them into PDF. I can drag just a 1-page PDF when I'm thinking through a concept and sort of document that was the day I first had that thought, sort of that archiving of the R&D of my life, I guess. But one of my favorite features that I get to drag and drop is I'll often have music on while I'm journaling. And sometimes there's a perfect song that comes on at the perfect thought. It's just kind of how it's timed. So I'll copy the YouTube link and I'll drop that in day one. And so when you asked me earlier about the review, I think, Adam, you asked that, there are times where I'll go back. I remember when that song did something and I felt and said something. I'll go back and rewatch that video, that music video or that worship song, and rehearse sort of what I was journaling. So the fact that I can capture more than words is profound.
Yeah. And powerful, that association.
Yeah, absolutely. So that, for me, outside of the user interface being so clean and beautiful, and the fact that I get to do it every day and it's easy to pull up, I'd say the feature I use the most is dragging some things in there to add to that creativity of it.
Awesome.
Nice. That's great.
I love it.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for helping us understand your process, and I'm sure we all learned something from your use case, so thank you. I want to talk about your book for a few minutes because this is a book that I'm very much looking forward to. I think there's so much to learn from and apply as we approach our day one in our journaling process. It's called Where Breakthrough Happens, Discover How the Power of Clarity, Purpose, and Momentum will set you free to reach your dreams. Number one, I think it's awesome that you're a day one user, and that's really how we started talking about it. And then in the process found out you had written this book. And I just think it's really inspiring. There's a lot here for folks to learn from. So would you mind giving us maybe an elevator pitch, just an overview of the book?
Yeah, great question. I'll give a 20-second about my background that leads to what this book's about. I spent nearly my first 10 career years in the corporate world, finance, and found a lot of people chasing kind of their own glory. And for some reason, that was a turnoff to me. And I felt like if I could help others be great, that was my greatness. So I made my career mission about making others great. What I didn't realize till I looked back, that actually accelerated me in the career world when I was trying not to accelerate myself. So that was my first 10 years. I left that career to work for a nonprofit in leadership there, in creativity and design and programming large men's events throughout the nation. And then ultimately, I was there about 4 years, ultimately left that to spend 10 years pastoring in my local church outside Denver, Colorado. And so it's a diverse career and it's a diverse journey I've been on, but every place I've gone, my passion and mission is to ignite others. But here's what I found, whether it's career world or corporate world or nonprofit world or even pastoring in a church, was that people find themselves sometime in life stuck and lost. And they're, a big part of my life is how do I help them get from that place of stuck and lost into their dreams, into their potential. And I feel like I've coined a phrase that I've been using the last 10 years. Every person, every organization, every team has a blue sky potential. And to me, that blue sky potential is that the dreams, the ambitions, the hopes, the desires that one person has that is way up there in the blue skies. I grew up in Colorado, known for 300 days of blue sky every year. And but there are those days where you're in an airplane and you're about to take off, and there's either a thunderstorm in the summer or a snowstorm in the winter, and you're thinking, I don't think we're going to get off the ground. But you do. You elevate through the clouds. It's bumpy. And when you cross through that canopy, it's unlimited blue sky. It's like there's no storm. And I just believe with my whole heart, every person, every team has a blue sky potential. So that's the foundation of the book. But the question then becomes, how do you move from that place of stuck and lost? How do you get above those clouds and into your blue sky potential? Not only the theory and passion behind it, but a practical strategy that I think will help people as well.
Thank you. That's awesome. And you do provide on your website, because I'm doing it, a reader guide, a reading plan. It's a 28-day. I'm on day 2, so I've read the manifesto introduction to chapter 1 and 2. So I'm off to a start.
Yeah, it's great. I wanted to make it easy. It turned out I thought I was going to write a short form book. It turned out to be a full-fledged leadership development, personal development book. And I wanted to make a reading plan just to give people, hey, if you make it this far in a day and keep going and create that rhythm, you're going to get to the end of it. I start a lot of books. I don't finish them. So I wanted to give someone a tool. But included in that tool, if you go to that reading plan download, is also a free reflection plan where each chapter I've got reflection questions. It's a PDF document. I think it's 24 pages of reflection to just 24. Allow you to read the content and then reflect. And it's a PDF. I even mentioned that PDF, open a day one account and reflect through these questions there. So yes, you do. We got you covered.
Promotions.
Yeah.
And it's wherebreakthroughhappens.com/reading plan.
Yep, for the reading plan.
And as well, that folks can sign up there if they want more information about you and your book and there, or your website. Where's the best place to send folks?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to wherebreakthroughhappens.com for the book. My personal website is just my name, jeffrazor.com. And it's an S, not a Z. Sounds like a Z, but jeffrazor.com.
Missed opportunity here. It's a real trip. It's a quick trip down to the courthouse, Jeff. I'm just kidding.
That's right.
I'm just kidding.
Right.
I like the S better.
Yeah, I should, little kickback on all the Razor scooters that
Yes.
Yeah.
See, and I think the missed opportunity of pronunciation, you could be Jeff Razor.
That's true.
A little more,
a little artsy.
I totally derailed this whole thing. That was my bad. I'll take credit for that.
That's great.
Or the blame, I guess.
Yeah, but we're going to be back in a month. We're actually going to talk to you on Facebook Live. We'll do a book discussion. Between now and then, I'd love you to be involved in the Facebook community. answering questions about your book. We can give away a couple books maybe in the comments, folks.
I'd love to. My heart in writing this book, a lot of people write because they want to sell a bunch of books.
Right.
I knew I was supposed to write this one for me. I shared with you guys before. As I wrote the book, it wrote me. While I was in alignment with what I was writing, it called me into deeper focus, and it transformed me. Really, the transformation I talk about is available to people in the book. It transformed me as I wrote it. So for me, book sales is not important. Serving others is important. And if we can put this in the hands of some people and it inspires and encourages them, that's what life's all about. So whatever we can do to partner in that, I'd love to do that. If anyone's listening to this, reach out. My heart is to serve. If you feel stuck and lost, let's get you unstuck and get you going towards your blue sky potential.
Nice. Thank you, Jeff. And honestly, that comes through. I'm only in chapter 2, and that really does come through, the resonation of your genuineness and authenticity. So thank you. All right.
Excited for the book club. That'll be great. We've had mild success, I guess, on those. Some people joining in and having good discussions. The discussions are always great. Hopefully, we can get a few more people on there, but I always enjoy them. So
and we know you're busy. I've had a few people reach out and say, hey, we'd love to read the books, don't have time. But to your point, looking at the comments, and Jeff's already involved in the community, so he's there to answer questions. And I really think there's a lot that we could all benefit from.
Absolutely. So, and we'll have links for Jeff below in the description of the episode, so check those out so we can share that. And that's great. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Oh, you guys, it's been great. Such an honor and a privilege. Great to know you guys, and I'm looking forward to the future of Day One. I'm a committed user. I told Brett I'm a bit of an evangelist. I tell everybody about it, and even in my coaching programs, it's a part of what I encourage people to use because it's so easy to use, and it's so powerful when you use it.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's awesome. I think most of our marketing has been word of mouth, and it is so helpful. So we appreciate all of our users. We're thankful for Jeff and other pillars that kind of share that with others and kind of influence and get our name out there. That's awesome.
Yes.
Because we're just a small company that just wants to stay in business and keep building this great app. So that's our goal.
That's it.
If you ever have any questions for the support team, if you're stuck on an issue or don't know how to use the app or there's a problem, please reach out and contact us. You can actually go to our self-service help guides at help.dayoneapp.com, or you can contact us. If you go to dayoneapp.com/contact, it will give you a few options to give us a message, email, or chat, or whatever. We'd be glad to help you out. So links below, check those out, and then you can also schedule a call with Brett. That link is below as well. It's been really beneficial for us to get to know you and to hear your stories, to hear your use cases, and share those with thousands of listeners of this podcast. So
that's right. Thanks everyone for listening. Appreciate it.
See you in a couple of weeks.